Miss anything? Follow us on Facebook to get caught up. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk. Powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Fastest 15. It's brought to you by IRG Physical and Hand Therapy. They allow us to bring this to you commercial free. This is our number.
It's time for the fastest 15 minutes in the news. This is Dori's Fastest 15.
It is a world of news in a tiny little 15-minute package just for you. And also, our Fastest 15 is streaming on Facebook Live this half hour. Welcome. Glad you're with us. So I just saw a story that just posted on the Seattle Times that in Kirkland, there are so many dogs pooping in the parks that they're trying to shame owners. They have these volunteers, and they go around the park, and every time they see a pile of dog poo, they put a yellow flag next to it. And so the thinking is, if your dog starts to poop in the park, you'll look around and see how pervasive the problem is, and you will be shamed into scooping your own pet's poop. And as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, I have yet another great plank for my platform if I do run for governor next year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which is starting to look more and more likely now, as of today.
Right.
But you will be my chief of staff.
Of course.
Yeah. So here's my solution to this. We will have the volunteers not plant yellow flags, but the volunteers will identify the owners of said offending dogs. And then once a month, you know how in, I think Singapore, they do the public canings, and it's all about, public shaming. So if your dog poops in the park, once just as their dog does, but it'll be with thousands of people watching.
Okay, you lost me a little bit. I thought, there's public shaming, but that is a little bit over the top. Nobody wants to see that.
But nobody's going to have to see it because people are going to stop letting their dogs do that, or they're going to start scooping. So, see, that's the thing about all of my solutions. You're not going to see the ramifications of the policy. You're going to see the elimination of the problem.
No, it's always going to take one example.
Well, then
you're going to have to do it at least
once. It takes one example. And we'll have this massive public square event, and the owner will be forced to do one of the most, although we've got about, we have thousands of people doing that right now in downtown Seattle, don't we? And they don't seem to care. Let me rethink this.
Yeah,
I'm trying to refine my program here. But here's the other thing I don't quite understand. And then they say that it's, dog poop. Remember a few years ago, I talked about this on the show. So there was an attempt to get dog owners, if your dog poops on your own property, that you would have to scoop it up and put it in your yard waste, or I still don't know which garbage can is which. But you couldn't even, because on my property, we've got a bunch of ivy alongside a walkway. And our last dog, Star, she would only poop in the ivy, which was awesome because it's, well hidden. It doesn't stink. It was fantastic. Now, Buddy, he goes on the pathway, so we just, go out and flip it into the ivy. And if this attempt a few years ago to force dog owners to bag the poop on their own property, because they said, well, it eventually gets bacteria and it leaches into the groundwater and blah, blah, blah. How many animals do we have in this state? Bears and coyotes and birds and everything else, squirrels, raccoons, and they all poop. And to suggest that dogs are this massive problem, they're a tiny representation of all the wildlife poop in the world. and yet they're always, and again, I do not want them doing it in the parks, and owners who don't scoop up in the parks are, that's bad. That's really bad. But to suggest that dogs are a disproportionate problem when they're probably 1/1000th of the wildlife population anywhere, silliness. It's absolute silliness. Okay, I just saw that story. I got a fascinating email today from Douglas. And I love these exclusive tips that I get. He just wrote, huge news story. And he said, Google's Seattle East Side corporate office is inserting hundreds of phony locksmith and garage door repair listings over Seattle metro area. And he said it's part of a nationwide scam. And he said the name of the group, which is based in a foreign land. And I haven't been able to vet that part of it yet. But there are all these $29 locksmith bait and switch ads on Google. And this has been a scam. I'm curious. I would love to hear from you if you've been the victim of a locksmith scam. So I told the story a few years ago. We used to have a little vacation place on the Columbia River, right next to the BB Bridge that goes into the town of Chelan. And one time we went over there. We were going to be there for a few days. Friends were going to come and meet us. And my Sea-Doo I had left in my garage at our Columbia River place. And all I wanted to do on this trip was to Sea-Doo, to go ride the waves. And for some reason, the garage had a deadbolt that we used all the time, and then it had a lock on the handle that we never used, and it was 2 different keys. And I had the deadbolt key, but somebody had locked the handle the last time we were up there, so I couldn't get into, or it was vice versa. No, it was the deadbolt I couldn't get into. And so I couldn't get into my garage. So same thing. I get on my phone, and I look up locksmiths, and it pops up. You know, when I Googled it, that there were, all these locksmiths. It was like, 15 locksmiths in Chelan and Chelan Falls, Washington. And I could tell by looking at it that it was a total scam. And indeed, and I'll finish the story because the whole lock thing was one of my most favorite stories of a great local business. But NBC, the Today Show, a while back, they talked about these locksmith scams that go on all around the country.
They grab you with catchy web ads promising professional service at a great price. But when you're standing in the cold and call for help, who's really showing up at your door?
I was just horrified.
Janice Putnam was locked out of her condo all alone, so she Googled the local locksmith on her phone.
I asked them how much is this going to cost me, and they said $39. I thought, oh, wow, I'm lucky. This is going to be good.
But when the locksmith got her back in the house, that $39 quote was gone. The new price, a whopping $833.
I couldn't even think. I was almost physically ill.
Experts say locksmith schemes are a growing national problem, so we set up our own experiment, renting this home in suburban New York. We hired this licensed New York City locksmith to install simple locks on our door. He says any real locksmith would kick it easily. He showed us in just seconds. His charge for this job, about $100.
There's no damage to the lock. It's a minimal charge to a customer, and it's the proper way to perform that service on a lockout.
Okay, so a growing scam all around the country, but here's when they went undercover. Here's what happened.
This guy's company touts $15 locksmith service, but when he gets to our door,
it's $100 and the $15 service fee.
And he's just warming up. Instead of picking our lock, he tries to pry the door open with a board. When that doesn't work, he grabs our doorknob with pliers and rips it off. Now we're on the hook for a brand new lock and doorknob. Total price, $223.
And that wasn't even the most outrageous.
We were most shocked by this one.
To drill the lock, it's going to be $275.
Well, I need a lock, right?
The new one is $225.
We're already up to $500, and he hasn't even started working yet. Then he begins to drill. Final price this time, $635.
It's horrible. That's ridiculous. It's a $100 job. It's $600,000 he wants.
Even more outrageous, he wants it all in cash.
The credit card machine doesn't work. There's no way you could pay cash?
I don't have $635 cash.
Maybe we could go to the bank or something?
The bank?
So anyway, my listener who tipped me off on this morning, he said, just Google. And in Snoqualmie, Washington, there are 15 locksmiths listed. And I went to the webpage, and it's this, really brightly colored webpage, and it looks phony as can be. And it sounds like this locksmith scam is alive and well here in the Puget Sound area. So let me go back to my Chelan thing. So same thing. This was about, 5-6 years ago. So I can tell when I tried to Google and find a locksmith, I could tell that they were all scammers because I have pretty decent radar for that sort of thing. So I called the Ace Hardware store in Chelan, which is an awesome hardware store. It looks and smells exactly the way a hardware store should, where, it's not the neatest, but it's like an adventure around every aisle, around every bend. It's Kelly's Ace Hardware in Chelan. And I called him up and I said, hey, I'm locked out of my garage. Is there anything you guys can suggest? And they said, well, you can drill it out. I go, oh, man, I don't have a drill. And they go, and I didn't say my name. They didn't know who I was. I don't think they did anything special because I have a radio talk show or anything. I was just calling some random customer. And they said, well, it was a Saturday morning. And they said, well, come on over and we'll loan you a drill. and so I drive into town and I bought a new deadbolt from them. The guy explained, here's how you drill it out. Here's the kind of bit. He goes, you'll have to buy the bit because it's going to wear down pretty good. I go, yeah. And they go, well, we'll just loan you a drill. Come on back. And it was like being in Mayberry. And it was dealing with a wonderful local community business. And I told the story when it first happened. It was really sweet because the next time I was over there, because like I said, I don't think they had any clue who I was. And a bunch of customers had told them, and they found the podcast of it. And all the employees listened to it, and they were just really sweet. It was awesome. But it appears that if you're locked out of your car or your house or your vacation place, your garage, if you go to Google, you're going to find a ton of scammers, and it looks to be an international operation. And we're going to keep looking into this. But I'd love to hear from you. If you want to, we'll get something up on Facebook probably. How soon can we post on Facebook? Just since Jennings isn't here today.
I'm able to do that for you.
Are you?
Very quickly.
Okay,
yes.
We'll put something up on our Facebook page, and if you've been the victim of one of these scamsters, let us know, and we're going to follow up on this. But we're also going to see why Google's accepting these ads.
Well, they do have this new guarantee thing, though, so that if you get scammed by these companies that are listed in their Google guarantee companies, then they pay you back. Google pays you back.
Yes, but if you go down from the ones that are in the box at the top,
right,
and click on another web page,
sure,
those are not guaranteed.
Right, which is the lesson here.
Yeah.
Only use the guaranteed ones.
But why would they accept placements, ad placements, for scamsters?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming that's a you can only regulate the web so much. Anybody can post something on the web, and then there's all these algorithms that
we wouldn't do that to our listeners. We wouldn't let some foreign scam operation buy airtime so that we can help them bilk our listeners.
Well, I'm not sure that they get money for that. That's probably just part of the search engine and what
so these companies use their search optimizers who bump them up on Google.
Right.
Okay, we're going to look into all of this. So stay tuned. Up next in the Festus 15. So there's another kind of exclusive story that a listener tipped me off on. I was watching football on Saturday afternoon. And on Fox Sports, a commercial came on for a new game where Terry Bradshaw will give you some of his money if you are great at picking the outcome of 6 football games.
With Fox Sports Super 6, you get a chance to win my money.
250 grand, Uncle Terry.
Oh, yeah. It's free to play, and all you have to do is pick the outcome of 6 football games.
Okay, it's free to play. But if you look at the disclaimer at the bottom of the TV screen, it says open to residents of all states except Washington. And why is this? Well, we contacted the State Gambling Commission this morning, and they said, we don't know why they have that up there. But here's what I know, that in our state, you can kill a child while driving drunk, and your punishment will likely be less than what is prescribed if you play one hand of 25 cents Texas Hold'em poker on your computer. Because in Washington State, with the most punitive gambling laws in the United States, it is a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison if you play one 25-cent hand of online poker. And this game is free, that Washington residents cannot play. We're the only people in the country. Now, can somebody explain to me, in liberal, progressive utopia that is Washington, marijuana legal in King and Snohomish County, heroin legal, meth legal, cocaine legal, a football pick game that is free to enter, where you have nothing at risk, but you could win prizes, is not allowed here in Washington. And this is because, and I believe she has since passed, but there was a state senator named Margarita Pranas. And she pushed through the most punitive gambling laws in the United States. And so we are the only people in the country that cannot play this Fox Sports game that's free to enter. What kind of sense? Drop me a text. See if you can explain it to me, because I'm not able to figure this one out. What kind of sense does it make to make marijuana, heroin, meth legal and playing a no-risk football pick game not allowed in Washington? Yeah, drop me a text, 98973. That's 98973. That is your fastest 15.
This has been the fastest 15 minutes in the news. Fast. Dory's fastest 15.
You give us 15 minutes, we'll give you the world. If you missed it, had a chance to talk, it was really fun with the lead guitarist for Pearl Jam, Mike McCready. Tell you what he had to say coming up next.